Hey, what's up, fam? Sorry, it's been a minute. Uh, I've been doubling down on TikTok and YouTube Shorts, and had my marathon on Sunday. And man, yeah, I can't believe the time, and yeah, it's just incredible, absolutely incredible. Well, for me, there's people out there. I think the guy that won this past weekend, he did a 2:04 marathon. So, that's really insane. But I had a wild idea of trying to do a 4:30 marathon. And my first one was 6:18, 6 hours and 18 minutes. And then my last long run, 22 miles, maybe like 2 weeks prior to the marathon, was 4 hours and 58 minutes. And I ended up finishing in 4 hours and 34 minutes, which is insane. And it was like the last 3 miles where I really started picking up the pace. I asked ChatGPT to kind of help guide me on pacing and things like that. And the hardest part was pacing myself and not letting the adrenaline get to me in the beginning, and allowing myself to slow down and do like an average of 10 minutes and 30 seconds a mile, or 10 minutes and 20 seconds up until mile 21. And then ChatGPT said, I call her Chloe, and she said that at that point it's all about emptying the tank. The hard part is, if you run fast in the early parts, those miles charge interest at the end. So that was my biggest concern, is trying to slow down, not letting too much of the excitement get to me. And man, it was absolutely incredible. And so at the end I was just like, empty out the tank, bitch. And I did. I ended up having my best miles at the end, my fastest ones. I got to see my kids at mile 21. And man, it was just absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. And it taught me that you have to have a goal. When I started this, my goal was never to do a 4:34 mile or a sub 4 marathon. It was never my goal. My goal was just to outrun the pain, to outrun what I was struggling with at the time, which was my divorce, having my cars totaled, and all the stuff like that, and trying to make my kids proud, because I had been in a severe setback, due to all this stuff. So my goal was just to, make them proud and show them, they really don't know. They ask me every time I run one, they're like, Dad, did you get first place or second place or third place? And, my goal isn't to be on the podium at all. My goal is just to, be able to make them proud, be able to run long distances, do an ultra marathon one day. And then also the biggest part is just, when I'm 60 or 70 years old, I want to be able to wipe my own ass. If I can run a marathon now, I hope that I can do a half marathon when I'm 60. That's the goal. That's the thing that I discovered during this journey, where, the early miles, if you let life get to you and you're not in a place, or you're not, you don't have a goal, it's kind of like running, right? Those early miles charge interest at the end. And those early years, they charge interest at the end. And I don't want my kids to be paying for some something that I did, or the lack of things that I did. You know, I know it's hard out there. I know it's not easy, you know, with relationships and finances and everything. I think the most important part is to control the things only you can control. That's your health, your body, move. Momentum has taught me that, right? I can pivot and redirect as long as I'm moving. It's when I'm still that really kills me. It's the comfort that kills me. And through this race, I raised, $500 for Star of Hope, which is it's kind of like a shelter for people that are trying to get their lives together, mainly women and children. And I didn't realize this, but on, Christmas Eve, I really didn't want to be alone. Christmas Day, I mean. And so I ended up going to Star of Hope, not knowing, that I was going there. I just thought I was going to go volunteer somewhere and hand out gifts. But I ended up volunteering at Star of Hope and, talking to a lot of people that are going through the program. And my sister has also been through the program. They kind of help you get your life together. So, I went and spent some time there just so I wouldn't be alone. And then I did Uber for a couple hours, and then I treated myself to like a fancy Christmas Eve dinner, just to try and do some things that are different. And I ended up talking to my ex New Year's Eve, and I feel like we got a little bit of closure. I hope we're kind of in a better place where we can talk and be friends for the sake of the kids. I have no ill will. If anything, I'm grateful for the experience that I had and the struggle. Even though a year ago, man, I could not say that. I ran into the neighborhood cop, and I just checked in with him real quick. He ended up pulling me over a year ago when this divorce was fresh and the car accidents and everything. And I just remember I broke down crying. I accidentally ran a stop sign and just my head was everywhere. And we ended up talking, and he asked me, I started crying when he asked like how the kids were, how my wife was, and I just told him, because he saw my kids when they were little. He saw the girl that we had adopted. He had to do a call because she had gotten a fight, at the bus when she was in high school, when she lived with us. And, and I told him, man, for the longest time, the goal was to keep one foot in front of the other and keep a bullet out of my mouth. And I tell men this stuff, and, they get it. It's hard out there, right? You lose your sense of purpose, your sense of direction, and it feels hopeless, right? It feels dark. You feel numb. And I think momentum is the only thing that can kind of get you past that, right? Yes, you won't be able to feel anything in the moment, but as you keep moving, as you keep progressing, as you keep on not giving up, you'll be all right. You'll be all right. And it's been a crazy year. But, how you doing, man? It's about keeping one foot in front of the other until you look up and you see that the things around you are changing. Slowly but surely. It seems overwhelming, but that's how compounding works, right? Small actions every day for a long period of time create massive changes. You know, I never thought I'd see myself as someone that, you know, is an amateur runner. But now my whole lifestyle is different because of it. You know, what I'm drinking, what I'm eating, how active I am. It's insane. Stairs, though, they still kick my ass, you know, relentlessly. But yeah, I'm doing well. My knees feel better. I just did my first, you know, recovery run. I did a 281 run, you know, 2 miles, 81. And yeah, but I hope you're doing well. And if there's someone around you that you can talk to, reach out. But there are seasons where you have to go through the wilderness on your own. The goal is just to take it a day at a time. All right, man. I love you guys. Peace.